podcast editor here. What positive habits can have the most profound impact on your life? Well, today, Dan and Lloyd discuss the things that help to keep them in tip-top condition. And you'll hear about actionable steps that anyone can take to do the same.
I'm not at a healthy weight, and my diet definitely needs changing habits around that. But something I'm brilliant at, okay? I am great at sleeping.
We'll also explore the knock-on effects of small changes and how they can impact other areas of your life, including your wallet.
I'm not going to say the exact amount, but it's a crazy amount of money that I'm saving. Not going out every weekend, multiple times, getting drunk.
Right, let's get stuck in. This is episode 81 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
What do you consider a healthy habit, and why should the business anchors listening listen to this episode and take action, Lloyd?
Well, they should listen to this episode and take action, because this is the best podcast recorded by two brothers in a business park in Manston.
Okay.
But my definition, I thought about this a lot, and I think that it's something you do consistently that makes you or those around you happier or healthier. That's my definition of a healthy habit. I didn't do research to find out if that's official. That's just my interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't do research either. I just thought what I think the definition is. And for me, a healthy habit is something that has a positive impact on you or other people, which is a bit simple.
But that's similar themes to mine then.
Yeah.
I'd say where I really took the definition game up a step, I use the word consistently.
It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Because a habit, I kind of thought, it's not just a one-off thing you do to make you or those around you happy or healthy. It's got to be something consistent.
Yeah.
Oh, chin on the mic, that's a new one. Used to punch it. One of my chins. As I swung my chins across the mic there.
And I really think this is going to be an important episode for the anchors, because I think we've got a few healthy habits, but me personally, I feel like I'm doing certain things that are really making me happier, and through analysing what those things are, I think it'll be useful to listeners, and you've got some as well.
I know. I think when we thought about recording this podcast, I was kind of racking my brain thinking, well, do I have healthy habits? Because I think I certainly have some unhealthy habits.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking,
I want to hear those more than the healthy ones.
We can. I was thinking, do I have enough value to provide healthy habits? Then I was thinking, and I actually, over the last few years, there's a number of healthy habits that I feel will be useful, that have really made a massive improvement in my life. So looking forward to us both sharing those.
Yeah.
And now, Dan, you've made a big change, and Dan's friends and family and colleagues will probably laugh because he's talked about this quite a bit. No. But Dan, would you like to start with your healthy habit?
You're asking.
Yeah, the one that you keep talking about?
I really don't want to be... I keep feeling bad when I talk about it, because I feel like I'm that guy that's talking about something constantly.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
But some quite a drastic change for me recently has been giving up alcohol.
Ooh.
I basically, I think, since I was like 15... been drinking alcohol quite regularly, binge drinking a lot, going to uni drinking a lot, and I've had a brilliant time. And I recently turned 30, and this year I thought, I'm going to do dry January. I've done dry January or Stoptober or whatever a few times, and I thought, I'm going to do dry January. Did it, and now I'm into February, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to continue to do this.
And firstly, I'm interested. By the way, listeners, I'm not interested. He's told me everything about this loads of times. No, I genuinely am interested. What made you decide to do this in the first place?
Okay, so a while ago not a while ago actually, fairly recently, we did that episode to do with our goals.
Yes.
Which, if you haven't listened to, listen to. It's our approach to setting goals for the year and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when I did that activity, one of the goals was health. And I've consistently go to the gym and I eat healthily. But one of the things that I did, which I felt was unhealthy, was drinking a lot. So I thought, my goal this year is going to be to not drink for 3 months of the year. Okay. So I set that. And then I went to the gym with my mate Leandro, and I got speaking to him. And he's been drinking with me since we were 15, and we party together a lot. And he said to me, I am not going to drink for the whole of 2022. And I was like, what?
The whole year.
The whole year? Are you joking? And he, to make it even more serious, he put a big monetary wager on with his parents to say, if I drink, I'm going to pay you this quite a significant amount of money. And it made me think, if he can do it, I can do it. Why can't I set? Well, I'm not necessarily saying I'm not going to drink for a year, but I'm just going to keep going for as long as I want to go for. And actually, after doing a month, I did a post on social because I love talking about it, and I wanted to share a balanced view of what are the positives and the negatives of giving up drinking.
Because I assume there's probably both.
There's both, right? So I started writing this post, and I'll just quickly share the bullet points. So I started writing, I thought, right, let's start with the positives and then go on to the negatives. So the positives I had were, I feel happier and healthier. I have more energy. I have been more productive. Weekends feel longer. I've been more present at home. I feel more focused. I've exercised more consistently than ever. My diet has been the best it's ever been. I saved money. And I thought, right, I need to say some bad stuff about this now.
Yeah.
And I really struggle to think of the negatives of it. But I managed to find two.
Yeah.
So my two negatives were, one, I missed out on some ski trip socialising. We had a ski trip where I'd normally drink a lot, and I missed out on some of that. And two, I saw some of my friends a bit less. But I really struggled to think of the negatives, and it got me thinking, wow, if this one change is having such a positive impact on my life, why on earth wouldn't I continue it?
Well, we'll go into the positives in a minute and unpack that, because you strangely read it really fast like a robot. But going on to those negatives, missing out on some ski trips socialising. I was there, and I know what you mean. And I didn't drink as much. I did drink because I'm obviously not as good of a person as Dan.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But did you, from my perspective, watching you, I feel you gained some different socialising on that trip. Like you spent...
What, the hen-dos?
Yeah. We describe them as hen-dos because at a hotel we were given robes and it just felt lovely. But there was a spa, and you went down with Leandro and some of the other guys quite a lot, down to the pool and the spa. Would spend a couple of hours most days, which I guess before you may have been in the pub after we went skiing. And so I don't think it was just in a slightly different way?
I totally agree. I mean, as I say, I really struggled to find negatives. Yeah. So that was me really trying. But yeah, I think I had a different element of socialising. I just didn't get the kind of more crazy, we're all getting drunk socialising. But
also two of the positives I thought were interesting. You said you've been more present at home, and you feel more focused. Mm-hmm. So that's just not like not having a hangover.
Well, exactly.
That seems like a bigger change. I don't know.
Being honest with myself, when obviously go out and drink a lot, the next day I feel terrible all day, and even as I've got older, it just goes on for a few days, and I'm just not the best version of me. Like even things like making an effort to play with my son as much as possible when I'm hungover, I'm not going to be as good at that. Whereas if I'm fresh so I think it's just a lot of self-analysis of myself and my behaviour. And by the way, I'm not suddenly saying I'm never going to drink again, because I'm not, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm not going to drink for a long time, but just I guess sharing my story
talking about healthy habits though. The healthy habit doesn't need to be I'm never going to drink alcohol again. But I guess if you're like, I think both of us in the past decade and a half have been in a habit of drinking alcohol every week and potentially multiple times a week, I guess in quite an unhealthy habit. So switching that to, like you're saying, you can't be the best version of yourself 100% of the time every day and be like the perfect robot. But I guess if you're just, there's once in a while where you're not that, rather than consistently.
I just think I needed a drastic change, because it got to a point just being very comfortable drinking multiple times a week and feeling shit and stuff. So that's
a crazy benefit that I think from this that I saw as well on this ski trip was the saving money part.
Yes. It's scary. Once I've got this app called I Am Sober, where you can input how much you'd normally spend going out each weekend. I'm not going to say the exact amount, but it's a crazy amount of money that I'm saving. Not going out every weekend, multiple times, and getting drunk.
And do you know what? Even just doing a ski trip where I didn't drink every day, and I still had a sort of one big night. Well, there's a curfew at 10 p.m. in Austria, so it was big afternoon. And then I had a couple of glasses of wine with a meal, so only twice.
Yeah.
But compared to how much I normally spend on a ski trip, I spent hardly anything, and I kind of thought, why have I spent so much less being here?
Yeah.
And I realised it's just the alcohol. And I've been reading a lot of books about investment and things like that, investing and in stocks and shares and property, all this sort of stuff. And I was just thinking, like, being in our early 30s, I know you're a bit younger than me, I was thinking, imagine even if you saved £200 a month, which for me, I think is definitely realistic, and invested that, by the time you retire, that's going to have a huge impact on your life and your family's life, just the money side. Yeah. I think that's crazy.
I think something I've noticed as well, and someone commented on my post about finding other ways of getting those good chemical hits. Because I think a big part of my drinking kind of culture was worked really hard. This is my relaxing release, which isn't a very healthy one. Yeah. Whereas now
it's now drugs.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah. No, now I'm focusing on playing squash a lot more, doing more fun stuff at weekends with the family, going to the gym more.
We were saying actually on one of our hen do's I remember a discussion in a jacuzzi on our ski trip with Leandro, and we were discussing the kind of highs and lows of drinking. You kind of borrow the high from the next day or the next few days. So you genuinely, I do think, get bigger highs than when you're not drinking. So, that buzz, and you think like, oh, I'm having so much fun here. But then you lose it the next day. You get much bigger lows. Whereas I think that consistency, like you still highs and lows, but they don't seem to be as big. And that consistency of how you feel, I think, feels quite nice. We sound proper boring.
Well, no, I think the final thing I just want to say before we get into this and the useful stuff is, I want everyone to know we're not on our high horse. I'm not on my high horse and thinking, if you drink, you're a shit person at all, because I'm probably still going to drink at some point. So it's just, I just want to share my experience of how it's benefited me recently. And
it's changing the habits rather than saying to everyone, you've got to get sober because we're so much better than you. I guess we're just commentating on our changing habits and how it's affecting us.
So Lloyd, let's get into this. I want to know your healthy habits. We've talked about that for long enough now.
So Dan's obviously really good at not drinking. I'll tell you what I am brilliant at.
Drinking?
Genuinely, but a healthy habit I'm good at. I've got lots of unhealthy habits.
I know what you're going to say.
Lots of unhealthy habits. So you can probably see I'm not at a healthy weight, and my diet definitely needs changing habits around that. But something I'm brilliant at, okay? I am great at sleeping. And I don't
spoken about this quite a lot.
I don't just mean like I sleep everywhere all the time and I just take naps when it's not appropriate. I mean like my habits around sleeping, I think I'm an expert.
We're laughing, but this is so important to you being the best version of yourself.
Yes. So for the Business Anchors listeners, with less than 7 hours sleep, I can't function.
He's not nice to be around.
Not as in I can't function well. I can't function. Like, so if I'm in a room with you and people I genuinely like speaking to, like the people I work with here, my friends, family, if I've had less than 7 hours the night before, I'll just stay silent and not want to talk to anyone. So it really affects me. So I guess that's probably why I've developed habits over time, and I'm really happy with where I am. So I'm going to talk through some of my brilliant sleeping habits, okay? Because I'm such an expert. So this is a more recent one that's like taking me to next level. And by the way, guys, 2 nights ago, I got 9 hours and 41 minutes.
That is mental.
Okay? And this is helped by
That is crazy.
So I have, over the last 2 or 3 months, stopped being on my phone in my bedroom at all, other than setting my alarm. If I'm honest, I look at it for a few seconds.
Get that fixed.
But I've started reading. I used to read as a kid and in my early teens, and I used to love it.
You loved Harry Potter books, I remember.
Yeah. I used to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I really, over the years, I've like read a bit and have phases. And I've bought a Kindle and I've made it a habit that every night before bed
You're looking at another
read.
screen now.
Yeah, different screen. But I read a study and I saw a video by a guy called Ali Abidal, who's a really good YouTube channel for tips around sleep and investing and all sorts of stuff. But he mentioned a study that it shows you actually get better sleep if you read before bed.
Nice.
And it's something that happens with your brain. I'm not clever enough to explain it, but I genuinely believe it because my sleep. It's amazing as well. If you struggle to get to sleep, Dan, you look like you're laughing at me. Why? Is it 'cause I'm getting so excited about sleep?
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying the conversation.
What was I saying?
If a study to do with
getting to sleep. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if you have any trouble getting to sleep, I've been pretty good at it recently, but I can't believe reading. I read sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for half an hour, but it just gets me to a point where I'm like, oh, my eyes are going. I put my Kindle down, and I don't remember anything after that. Like, as in, put it down, and I'm gone. Yeah. And I just think, what an amazing... People struggle to get to sleep, but I now have this magic power.
Well, you've got the secret formula.
I'm reading, and I'm like, oh, is that meant? Put it down, and I'm asleep. And I think...
What's the trigger? Is it the eyes feeling heavier?
You kind of... The words start going slightly out of focus, and I realise I'm trying to struggle to read them, and then I'm like, okay, it's happening. And so that's a really healthy habit I would try and get anyone else.
Any other things because another thing I've noticed you do, you don't drink coffee after a certain time. Is that to do with sleep as well?
Yeah. There's been studies to show any caffeine in your body, caffeine and alcohol at any level really affect your sleep. Even
that won't affect me because I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah. Oh, don't you? I didn't know that. But a lot of people, my in-laws, for example, they have a coffee before bed.
Oh, God, that is mental.
My father-in-law, Steve... Hi, Steve. Won't be listening.
Did they really? A coffee before bed?
Yeah, coffee before bed.
Though,
and he says, no. He says it doesn't affect us. We have coffee before bed. But then, I mean, he comes around to our house and falls asleep at like 2 PM. And seems quite tired a lot. And I do think, and this comes from science, even if you think, caffeine doesn't affect me, it's affecting your sleep.
It fucking does.
The quality of your sleep is being affected, even if you've got your eyes closed and you're not in the room.
And a good, something recently Lloyd keeps banging on about is his new Garmin watch. But it's actually another tip. I've got a Fitbit, which is a worse version of that. But looking at, you can see your sleep and what REM sleep you have, what good quality sleep when you're awake. That's a good way of tracking it as well, isn't it?
Do you want more tips?
Yeah, go on.
I've got loads of sleep tips.
Go on.
Absolute expert.
Go on.
So I read a book about 6 months ago by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. Yeah, which is where I picked up some of my best tips.
Yeah,
a pretty big deal in the sleeping world.
Sleeping influencer.
Yeah, and he talks about giving yourself an 8-hour sleep opportunity. So every night. So it doesn't matter if you need 8 hours. He says.
He was on Steve Bartlett's podcast, I think, or someone's podcast.
Oh, was he?
I've seen
Potentially.
It's
a really good book, really interesting. And he said just make sure, if say you have to wake up at 7, you want an 8-hour sleep opportunity. So make sure you're in bed, ready to be sleeping if you need to by 11.
That's good maths. Quick maths.
And the reason he says it is like most people to be function optimally, like around 8 hours is a brilliant amount. Some people need 6, but all that will happen is you'll be relaxed and recuperating, and maybe you'll read for 20 minutes extra, or you'll have the sleep you need and you'll get up earlier and you'll have time, but you need to give your body basically the opportunity to sleep for that long if you need it. And that's what I do every night. And like I said, 9 hours, 41 minutes. Sometimes I give myself a bigger opportunity.
That is impressive.
But I think that's a good thing to get into habit. Like if I'm in my bed for 8 hours without a phone and without watching a TV and stuff, my body has the opportunity to get the rest it needs.
Some good sleeping tips there.
Can I give you one more?
Go on then.
Okay.
God, making me tired.
Go to bed when you feel tired. All right, this sounds really simple.
That is such a shit but good tip.
Right, let me get into this, right? So the more content I have felt with my waking hours and my life, the easier it has been for me to go to bed when I feel tired. So
the more content you've been with your waking hours.
I'll unpack it. Okay. So when I was in a job I hated, or when I'm filling my hours in my day with stuff that doesn't feel good, I'm not exercising, or I'm just scrolling through social media, I feel less content. And then this is a real thing that happens. You then try and stay up later and enjoy
to get
your
content.
Your evening and the start of the night, because you're trying to get the enjoyment that you haven't had in your day. And I can't, again, I'm really good at reading stuff. I never remember it. I remember the vague details. But this is a real thing that, and I feel like I'm experiencing it. I used to, when I wasn't enjoying my work and when I didn't have as many healthy habits, at the end of the day, I'd then either be playing my PlayStation or watching Netflix or trying to get the enjoyment that I kind of felt I deserved. It's like, well, I'm going to stay up till 1 a.m. trying to do stuff.
Get that enjoyment.
That means my day's been good. Whereas I think if you're content with your waking hours and you're using your time wisely and effectively, and obviously it's not always in your control, but I think you feel much more open to going, oh, it's 9:30. I'm going to go to bed because I feel tired. So that's just a bit of a weird one, but doing the things in your life to allow you to feel like I've had a good day. Like I think if you've been to the gym in the morning, like a couple of our team members are really on this at the moment.
Yes, I've seen them in there.
If you're like, I've done some brilliant exercise, my body feels tired, I've been really productive at work and enjoyed what I'm doing. I've been with people I like.
I'm off to sleep.
I feel tired now, I'm going to go to bed. Whereas if you're like, oh, I've just been like on TikTok all day, eating cakes and, not really using my time well, then it's like, oh, right, it's 10 o'clock. I better try and do something that's good and that I feel makes me feel good for the last 3 hours.
Also, though, I think, just a side note, I think it's not a bad thing if you stay up later and you enjoy doing things. It doesn't mean like, oh, you must have a shit life because you... But I get the concept of...
The lateness doesn't really... Because some people just will have a lifestyle where they'll stay up later and wake up later.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I guess it's the amount of sleep and feeling happy whenever your time is that works for you to go, right, I actually feel tired, I'm going to go to bed, rather than trying to get this fulfillment from Netflix for another 2 hours.
You really do know a lot about sleep.
I do, mate.
That's really interesting.
I was writing notes for this podcast like, this is my time. But I'll let you speak if you want.
What a great segue. Are you going to ask me one of my habits?
Dan, what's your slightly worse habit than how good I am at sleeping?
Okay, so I think one of my main ones, which probably isn't as interesting as yours, but is what everyone says, physical health stuff. Doing things that are keeping your heart rate up. And I'll unpack this a little bit. Yeah. As I mentioned before, I go to the gym, play squash with you, and
you don't drink alcohol, do you?
Don't drink alcohol anymore.
I heard that. Yeah.
I don't know when that will stop, but and eat healthily. And there's a few things around that. We've mentioned this before. With the gym, getting your stuff ready the night before is super important. I do that every night, and you learned that from Atomic Habits, and I stole it from you. So that's like, imagine waking up in the morning knowing your gym bag's ready, but not going and having to walk past it. That's one thing. Also, something that we did with squash, which we spoke about last night or yesterday on a walk. Lloyd and I love playing squash together, and we went through a period of play sometimes, not play sometimes. And we both went on a walk and said we want to be healthier. And we're like, we both love squash. It's great exercise and we love it. What can we do to do it more? And we just said, right, we're going to schedule it in our calendar every week. And we're going to find 2 times a week that work. And it's just such a stupid, simple thing that we did. And now we play squash at least twice a week.
It went from us saying, right, even when we set the goal and said, we're going to play twice a week, it didn't happen. And when we actually had the conversation, worked out when we could play, and we said, every Monday at 7:45 and every Friday at 4 p.m. we're going to play, and then we just did. And now it's a healthy habit, and we play at least twice every week. Yeah, it'll be 3 times this week. Yeah,
4 for me. So that was one of my biggest healthy habits that's had the most positive impact on my life. What about you, Lloyd? Other than sleep, are you
something linked? To be honest, I haven't got many other than sleep because I focus so much of my energy on that. Yeah. But linked to what you just said with squash, one of my healthy habits that I think has been a massive change for me. And like I said, I'm still not at a healthy weight and I need to change my diet, but my exercise routine is now good. And what really changed it was finding exercise that I enjoyed. So for years, I've been trying to force myself to go to the gym and force myself to go on runs. And I do it for like 2 weeks and then think, well, that was a shit 2 weeks, and then I'm going to do that again. And I've sort of accepted now, I'm happy not to go to the gym. For me, it's not in line with my goals. I don't want to build muscle and stuff. I just want to improve my fitness overall. And so playing squash, I've discovered squash, and then suddenly it's like, I can get really intense exercise that I want to do and I enjoy. And for everyone, that'll be a
game
different
changer.
thing. Like for you, you obviously you get a lot of enjoyment from the gym as well as the benefits it has.
Yeah.
I really don't enjoy that, but squat, I could chase that black ball around that room for a long time until I pass out and be like, this is so good.
We're playing this afternoon, aren't we, Lloyd?
Yes, we are.
That's exciting.
So I think that's a massive thing.
Yeah.
I think rather than forcing yourself, like, oh, all my mates do swimming, and you're thinking, I hate swimming, but you might really like rock climbing, like trying different things and then going, oh, I love that. I think that's
so find the thing the exercise that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Cool. I've got another bit of a different one. I think a healthy habit that over the years I've got better at is when I'm been stressed at work, which isn't that often, speaking to you. Because I think a lot of the time, as we've sort of self-analysed in this podcast, sometimes I go into tunnel vision when I've got a task that's massive and I need to do it. Everything else goes out the window. But when I get into that that problem mode that I shouldn't be in, and I need help from outside, speaking to you and saying like I feel stressed, then you help me come up with a plan to overcome it. Whereas before, I would just be in that tunnel vision and it would suck, and it wouldn't. The result wouldn't be great.
Getting out of your own head and having someone else to bounce that
and
on
recognizing when you're going into that zone. Even recently with our website stuff that we were talking about, I was about to get into that zone of tunnel vision.
You were close this week, weren't
I was
you?
close this week, but then I set a meeting for us to talk about it, and I felt so much better after, and we have a plan and stuff.
A couple of years ago, we wouldn't have recorded this podcast because you would have been tunnel vision on that.
I would have said, I
task.
can't do it because I'm trying to sort this other thing out.
Yeah.
And also something I've learned from you, actually, this is self-analysing again. You can, if there's a problem that you're facing, you don't have to deal with that. Well, it depends how drastic the problem is, but you don't have to deal with it immediately. You can at least set actions to deal with it starting tomorrow or whatever. I think I used to think that any problem I thought has to be dealt with instantly and, work on that until it's finished. But really, you can set actions and delegate.
It's judging what's actually going to have a positive and negative effect and prioritizing. Because sometimes you see this problem. I'm not saying you. I mean, we as humans see a problem and we're like, that needs solving. I'm going to solve it. But if all of your attention goes there, there's going to be all these other problems that pop up. So it's, I think, like you said, it's being able to step back and go, right, I've got to solve that. If I do all of that for the next 3 days, there's going to be these other problems. So actually, I'm going to spend 3 hours now, and then I'm planning how to get there. And then that takes, once you know that there's a plan to get over the problem, that takes away the stress, I think. Because it's still not solved. But you can see,
you know there's a plan to solve it.
In 23 days, that problem's going to be
that's been a game
solved.
Changer for my stress levels, which is such a tiny habit.
I think that's a really good sort of healthy habit mentally of like, I don't need to solve all of my problems as soon as I recognize the problem. I just need a plan step by step to solve that problem.
Can I share one more quick one?
Yeah.
And I've got a prop for the listeners. Right, I'll let you just listen to this. Can you hear that?
Yeah, sounds weird.
That is my new large water bottle that makes me drink enough water throughout the day. And it sounds stupid, but I listened to this really interesting podcast, James Smith's podcast, and he had an expert on there to do with health. And she positioned the way she spoke about this thing in a way, like it was kind of like this. She sort of said, did you know there's this magic liquid out there that you can, or this magic drink that you can drink, and it lubricates all of your joints, and it makes you drop your blood pressure, and it makes you this and that and this and that. And I was like, oh my God, what is this drink?
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to buy this drink. And at the end, she's like, it's water. And it just makes you think, like, I know, people always say, oh, you should drink at least 2 or 3 litres of water a day. But doing that makes me feel...
It's funny, we spend money on these things to make us healthier, and we're buying like supplements and protein powder and stuff like this. But it's weird, because it's free and comes out of a tap, you don't put the same value on it, do you? When it's like, actually, if I focused on...
Because, I remember I used to get headaches and stuff from not drinking enough water, and it just makes you feel better. So, and I got, there's a deal on TikTok at the moment. I got that bottle for 99p.
Nice.
Yeah, have a look on TikTok shops.
Nice.
Any more habits from you, Lloyd?
I'd say one more.
Yeah.
I'll go into one more. And that is to get to a point where you can stop worrying about things outside your control. This is a habit I didn't have previously.
How?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, please.
I'll tell you how I got to this point, because I used to worry a lot about things I couldn't control, and now I would say I
Give an
do.
example of something outside your control that you shouldn't worry about, to give context.
Boris Johnson's put this new thing in, and it's going to tax my business this much more. My business was turning over $1 million. Now next year, it's going to turn over 10% less.
Okay.
Or my profit's going to be 10% less.
Yeah.
Right? So that's happened.
That's an example.
That's an example. You're going to make 10% less money this year than last year.
That sounds a bit rubbish.
Because action that the government's taken.
I'm worrying about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, stop. That's shit.
How could I stop?
I think, I think firstly, thinking what's the worst that can happen is first step. Right, this thing's happened. Once you realise that first thing would be, can I change that? I'm not going to get access to Boris Johnson and go, oh, you put this tax thing in,
Yeah.
and also you're racist and stuff, but don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, politics.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so you've realised, well, I can't
It's
speak
not something
to
you
Boris.
can-
It's not something I
yeah.
can change. Accept that. Next thing is, what's the worst that can happen? So it depends the position you're in. But say you're a business owner that's making a average amount of money in the UK, which is very good when you compare it to the world.
Yep.
Right, my business is turning over 10% less. Rather than earning £40,000 this year as a business owner, I'm going to earn £36,000 a year.
Right.
That's the worst that's going to happen.
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
And then you actually look at that and think,
That's still bloody good.
that's above average salary in the UK. And you start looking, that's the
Yeah.
worst that's going to
So you
possibly
actually
happen.
analyse it.
There's nothing you can do about this thing that's happened. And then you think of the worst that's going to
Yeah.
happen. And then beyond that, you can go, okay, well, now that's where in my mind, that's what's going to happen. And anything better than that I can control is going to be a positive thing.
Happiness is the difference between expectation and reality,
Yeah.
which we've spoken about before.
So you accept that, you adjust your expectation and go, the worst that can happen, right, that's out of my control.
And if it does happen,
that's there,
you've
and
already
that might
expected
happen. But now I can focus on the things that are in my control. Oh, actually, if that's happening, then I'm gonna start this podcast that I've been wanting to start. That's going to mean I win another customer next year, and that's going to increase my profit by 15%. And I'm nearly where I was because I've
Yeah.
focused on what I can control, not what I can't control.
I like it.
So that's
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's been really interesting. I think one of my favourite parts of this was listening to your sleep tips.
I mean, I am a big deal in the sleep world. I mean, put some respect on my name.
Yeah. If anyone's listening and you're thinking this could be useful to anyone else, please do share this episode with your friends, family, siblings, wife, husband.
Yeah. Also, if there's any major healthy habits that you've got that you are kind of like with me, where I'm like, I'm an expert at sleeping, with Dan, this new revelation of like, I'm not drinking alcohol and there's these huge positive effects. If you have any, please can you share it with me and Dan, because obviously we're very much in a state now where we've made positive changes and we're like, wow, this is having a huge effect. And if there's any more,
Yeah, please.
please share it with us. That would be great. But
Cool.
I've really enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Business Anchors, this will make you want to kind of take on even more healthy habits, or share the wealth of your own healthy habits with others. And we can have a big positive effect on each other and the world.
Positive stuff.
Lovely.
And we'll see you in your ears next week.
See you in your ears next week, guys.